I just want to be alone. A few hours a week would be more than enough. Why no one understands it? So, I was always sort of an introvert before I was married. I had friends, but I always needed a few nights alone to unwind and do nothing but fuck around on the computer, watch TV, play video games, etc. I recently got promoted, and I've been working 50 hours a week, which I know is not that much, but I have people in my face all day long. Phone calls, questions, clients and employees in and out of my office. I eat at my desk, and I'm answering my phone between bites. I also have an hour commute each way, so I am out of the house 11 hours a day. I get home around 7. My wife does not work, which I am okay with. We have 2 boys, 5 and 7. One just finished pre-K, one just finished 2nd grade, so they were out of the house 6 to 7 hours of the day. Now that it is summer, my wife put them into a summer day camp program that runs from 9 to 5, so they are out of the house 8 hours a day. My wife supposedly uses this time they were in school and time they are now in summer camp to make our next day's lunches, our dinners, and to clean the house / do laundry / run errands / etc. Okay, so here's the problem. My wife feels that when I get home at night, and all weekend days, are for family time. I love spending time with her, and I love spending time with the kids, but she thinks that since they are at school during the day and I'm at work, that we need to spend every night and weekend together no matter what. I've suggested her or my parents watch them here and there so that we can have a date night and or relax by ourselves, but she gets really upset that we would pawn them off on other people when we spend 35 to 60 hours away from them each week already. I'm trying really not to feel resentful because I really do love them, but a typical night consists of me coming home from work, having dinner with the family, helping the kids with homework, helping my wife clean the kitchen, watching TV with the kids before bed, putting them to bed, setting up their stuff for the next morning, and then taking a shower and crashing. I have literally zero time for myself. The weekends, my wife expects me to spend the entire 48 hours doing family stuff, taking the kids to their grandparents' house, playing, going to the zoo, bringing them shopping, etc. I'm not against family time, but between having people in my face all day at work and then having to spend all night doting on my kids as soon as I get home, 24/7/365, I'm feeling very burnt out. It's really hard for me to admit, and I hope I don't get blasted, but I'm starting to feel very resentful towards my wife because she is home without them for 7 to 8 hours a day every day, and I can't imagine that she is really spending all of those hours every single day doing chores. She has to have at least some free time to herself throughout the week, right? I don't want to assume, because I've never had to take care of a house and I can't pretend to know what it entails, but really? Not even an hour a day of free time? A few weeks ago, I asked her if it was okay if 2 nights a week I spent a few hours by myself. I don't mean that I will go out to a bar, or not come home or anything. I mean I will come home, eat dinner, do the dishes, and then maybe go into the basement to watch some TV, play video games, have a beer or 2, and just zone out. From like 8:30 p.m. to when I go to bed, I usually go to bed by 11. I also requested that we have either of our sets of parents, who are more than willing, watch the kids one weekend night every other week or so, which she flat out refused. Anyway, she started crying. She kept saying that she has no free time either, and I think that I deserve more free time than her just because I work and she doesn't. She feels like I am saying I need time away from my famly because I don't want to be around them or something. It's not true. I like being around them. But sometimes I just need to be around nobody. I never get that, anymore. I thought about asking just for 1 night a week, but we've tried that in the past when my kids were younger, which she hated back then, too, and it didn't work out well because I would spend that 1 night a week, I guess, trying to savor it. Basically I would end up staying up really late because I knew that once my night was over, I wouldn't get another one for an entire week, and then I would end up being exhausted the next day, with a pissed off wife. If I have 2 nights to look forward to, then to me it becomes more of a, okay, tonight's over, but I will have another one in just a few days, sort of thing, and I won't feel the need to stay up quite as late. She thinks this is unacceptable, that I need to be a parent just as much as she is. I don't think she should be solely responsible for them, but I feel like she isn't with them during the day. Why can't I not be with them for 2 to 3 hours twice a week? I'm asking for 6 hours a week of alone time, max. Not even an entire day. Am I really unreasonable? Does making the choice to become a father really mean giving up all of your alone time? Am I being a piece of shit for wanting to be away from them for a few hours? I'm trying to do my best, but I'm finding myself fantasizing about getting a divorce just so that we would have 50-50 custody and I wouldn't be forced to spend all of my free time with them. I know that's horrible and disgusting, and I know logically that isn't what I want, but I'm feeling like I'm being burnt to a crisp. Edit. Wow, I will try to reply to some of you when I get home. I just wanted to say thank you, and that I agree that a 10 o'clock bedtime is too late. But my wife lets him do it during the summer because he begs to stay up playing. During the school year he goes to bed at 8 to 9 depending on how many times he needs a drink of water. Then I spend about an hour getting ready for the next day / hanging with the wife. Also, no, we don't live on a farm or have livestock. Just a regular 3-bedroom house. The image of my wife secretly tending chickens all day is making me crack up right now, though, so thank you. Update. Truly, thank you for all of your replies to my OP. I just want to clarify that my 7-year-old's bedtime is only at 10, at the latest, in the summer when he is off. Although I agree that he is not really off when he is going to day camp at 9 a.m. My wife feels like it's not worth fighting with him to go to bed earlier when it is his break. Anyway. After seeing all of your replies to my last post, and realizing I wasn't getting crucified for wanting some time away from the kids, I decided to try to bring it up to my wife again. I told her I would really like to take her out that last weekend, and if we could please let the kids spend some time with my parents. She kept questioning me non-stop. Why do I need to be away from the kids? Why do I think it's okay to drop them off to my parents? Why don't I want to take responsibility for them on the weekends lately? I believe she was referring to the last time I brought up weekend date nights, because I'm with them every weekend. I told her I loved the kids to death, but that I can't just be a worker and a father 100% of the time. I explained to her I need just some time, not a lot, but some, to be just me and nothing else. She called me a selfish asshole, and that if I wanted to spend so much time away from my family I might as well get out of her face and away from the house. This was Friday night. Saturday morning I woke up and tried to talk to her again. I told her that I just wanted to spend some time with her away from the kids, to feel that I was still a person in a relationship with someone I loved and not just a father. She started getting emotional / angry again, same as the night before, and it was at this point I snapped. I told her that I was going to spend time away from the kids that night, and she could either join me and let my parents babysit like they want to, or I would go alone. Not my best moment. Long story short, I went alone. But I quickly realized that I have no idea what to do with myself on a Saturday afternoon. I haven't seen my friends in forever, they're all married, and my wife clearly doesn't love me spending time out of the house seeing them. The only friend I have that is single is a bartender at a pub about 20 minutes away from my house. So, I went there. I literally only had 2 beers. The bar was pretty empty since it was fairly early afternoon, and I got bored pretty quickly and decided to leave and go back to my family. My wife, though, was not impressed. Now she was accusing me of choosing to go drinking at a bar over my family. I had no idea how to get through to her that all I want is 1/2 days a month to spend on a date night and 1/2 nights a week to play video games for an hour or 2 so I don't go crazy. I can't take the constant 24/7 stimulation without a mental break to myself to zone out anymore. I can't take not having time alone with just me and my wife. I just want to run away. I never would, but oh my god I want to. After Saturday, I just let things go back to normal. My wife has been pretty icy with me, but nothing else has really happened since. Let's listen to another story. Story 2. My friend told me that he loves me. Gets rejected and tells my BF that we're having an affair. Good job, lover, thanks a lot. I want to say to start off with that I realize how messed up a situation this is, and I understand why my boyfriend would be upset and even suspicious, but I can't believe he doesn't trust me. So, I've been with my BF, Paul, for 3 years. In the beginning of our relationship, Paul had some issues with trust. He had been cheated on in the past. I made it clear right away that I had never cheated on anyone, that I would not, and that I understood if he had trust issues from the past, but that it was a deal breaker to me to be with someone who couldn't trust me. He has, since those early days, been really good about it, and throughout our 3 years together, I think I have earned his trust. I have always been honest with him and never cheated on him. He's asked to see conversations of mine that I've had with male friends twice over those 3 years, and I've obliged. The second time, however, I made it clear to him that I was very unhappy to be treated as though I was acting suspiciously and did not deserve privacy with my friends when he had no reason at all to think I was being shady. I said that if he didn't trust me because of something I had said or done, I was 100% happy to have a conversation about that, to discuss it, and to address any issues he had, but if I had done literally nothing to cause suspicion then I expected him to trust me. He agreed with me, said that I had done nothing, and never asked again. Once of those conversations he asked about was with my friend Roger. Roger had, 2 years before I started dating Paul, confessed feelings of love for me. I told him I wasn't interested, and that was that. By the time I was seeing Paul, I had absolutely no reason to think things were anything but platonic between Roger and myself. A week ago, Roger and I got together for coffee. Again, I want to stress that before this happened I had literally no reason at all to think he had held on to those feelings. At the cafe, Roger suddenly went on this impassioned monologue about how much he still loved me, how Paul was a terrible boyfriend and I should dump him and be with Roger, how loyal Roger was, how perfect we were together, etc. I was pretty much silent through this whole speech because I was so surprised and uncomfortable, but when he stopped I told him, probably not as strongly as I should have but I didn't know what to do, that I loved Paul, that I was absolutely not leaving Paul, and that I needed to go home immediately. I was shaken up by the whole thing so I took my time getting home to calm down. But, by the time I got home, I found that Roger had sent a long, utterly insane FB message to Paul detailing how much he loved me, that we were destined to be together, and heavily implying, but not outright stating, that Roger and I had been carrying on an affair for weeks. I don't know why he did this. I have no explanation. Paul believes it completely. He has listened to my explanation of things, but thinks I am lying. He doesn't want to see me or talk to me at all anymore. I'm completely devastated that Paul would believe this FB message over me. I'm horrified that my relationship with him has ended like this. I'm embarrassed that now I'm being seen as a cheater and a slut who slept around on Paul. I'm utterly hateful toward Roger. It's been a week and I can't convince Paul to talk to me. I know he had those trust issues in the past but I really believed we were long past them. What do I do? Update. I want to thank everyone so much for commenting. Before I post what happened, I just want to address a few things that I didn't get to in the first post. First, Paul knew I was having coffee with Roger. It wasn't some kind of secret thing. Paul has female friends he has lunch or coffee with alone too, so this isn't unusual in our relationship. Second, Paul did not know that Roger had said he loved me 5 years ago. I definitely made a mistake not telling him that, but honestly, it was so long ago and to my, obviously wrong, knowledge was old history. We did not extensively discuss our pasts so there wasn't really a natural point where it would have come up and it just never occurred to me to say anything. Finally, Roger and I did not have a particularly intense friendship. It's not like we were texting constantly or best buddies. We hung out occasionally and would be in touch if something relevant came up but we didn't just chat randomly. Anyway, with that having been said, I took the advice of some Redditors and when I was a little calmer I FB messaged Roger asking him why he lied. He responded with, "What do you mean?" at which point I started pressing him harder. He responded only with one-word answers, and honestly didn't reply to most of my messages at all, no matter how much I asked, and never actually said any definitive statement of, "Yes, I lied for such and such reason." Finally, I sent him a definitive statement that said I had never had an affair with him, that I was incredibly hurt and angry, that our friendship was over and that he was never to contact me again. He replied, "Okay," and that was that. I sent the entire FB conversation to Paul, not thinking it would help save us but just to try and clear my name. In the message, I asked him if Roger's reactions to my questions and my response to Roger was in line with what he would expect if Roger's accusations were true. Paul didn't respond that day, but the next day he called me. Paul basically said that the more he thought about it, the more he believed me, and that the conversation between Roger and I helped him believe that. That Roger's responses didn't make sense and that he now thought nothing had gone on. However, he said despite that the trust was broken between us and he couldn't be with me. I got pretty mad and yelled at him, asking why I was being punished for nothing, and he just basically disengaged from the discussion. Not my finest moment, I know, I was just so overwhelmed with frustration. We did eventually end the conversation calmly, if not amiably, and he is dropping off the stuff that I had left at his apartment later this week. I learned my lesson. Not only will any declaration of interest by a friend end that friendship forever, but I will never date someone who has trust issues or a history of being cheated on again. I'm sure I come across as a little bitter about this, but honestly I feel like there was absolutely no point to my fidelity and honesty during those 3 years. I got treated like a cheater whether or not I cheated, and both Paul and I ended up hurt and alone despite being 100% faithful. Better to end up alone or stick to FWB than end up investing another 3 years in a relationship to have this be the conclusion. It's time for story 3. I feel like there is something wrong with my wife. Don't know if she's cheating on me or not. What do you think? My wife stayed at home taking care of the kids while I held the fort down financially. I traveled a lot for work, and during a 2-year job out of state I noticed some things that never occurred in the past. The kids kept her busy full-time with sports and school activities, and our youngest started attending kindergarten a few months after I started the 2-year project. I would come home for a week every month and see the family and start the cycle over again. Intimacy was never an issue whether I was away or home. Phone/video calls almost daily when I was gone. Several rounds each day when I was home. The only odd observance regarding intimacy was I noticed she wouldn't climax as fast or as numerous each time as I was used to. One time after a session I caught her using a vibrator when I went back into the room, which she replied I needed one more. Reflecting back once I went into detective mode, I vaguely recall the start of a kiss seeming weird one time. All in all, none of this really caught my attention until I reflected back on that time period. The item that caught my eye was almost every time I arrived home that the bedding was in the wash and freshly changed, or the bed was stripped and needed bedding. I didn't really notice at first, but can remember this was done every time. Obviously, she always washed and changed the bedding fairly frequent as needed. It was the fact it was always the day of my arrival that this was taking place. This just seemed odd after 15 years, and now there's a schedule. This habit of changing the bedding on my arrival seemed like a phase that lasted for maybe a year or so, then more sporadic. I went into full detective mode and kept my mouth zipped. I downloaded her Google Maps JSON history file from our computer and scoured through it. The only questionable event in the history placed her phone at the little motel in town 10 minutes, which has a burger/ice cream shop right next door. It was on a day that we had traveled home from spring vacation, and I had continued on to my project before noon. The youngest had been with me in my truck sick with the flu, and I remember telling her some ice cream would soothe him a little after being confined in a booster seat for 4 hours. I never questioned at that time if she did get some or not. Reading the JSON files for accuracy, it's not accurate enough to pinpoint with our level of coverage here. Within 100 feet would be acceptable to assume, and combined with utilizing Wi-Fi networks that Google uses the phone to record leaves lots of doubt. When at the ice cream shop my phone tried connecting the motel's Wi-Fi. Never picked up on any behavior changes or other red flags consistently that I learned through digging into the web. Fast forward, projects are over, and I am home now. While attending a school function, an individual came up to her and greeted her that I didn't recognize immediately. When he greeted her, he touched her elbow, and her reaction was a quick acknowledgement, and away he went. Her body language caught my attention that she was uneasy and caught off guard by this. I have 2 deaf siblings. I should be working for the FBI when it comes to reading people. I say nothing and finally recognize him as the football coach for my middle son. This one isolated event added to the monster that I had been trying to tame. The football coach's wife is the volleyball coach who my daughter played under. I know my wife and her would visit often, and I'm sure the husband was around for some of these chit-chats, so him saying hello isn't unusual. I never did find any concrete anything. I never went through her phone, but I remember using it frequently when my phone would die, and she never hid her phone or acted funny with it. These items I pinpointed that caught my attention spiraled into my investigation, and I'm still not vested enough with facts to lean towards a solid conclusion. We are at a point in our relationship where we need to do some work on ourselves for us to continue. At some point I still want to address what I documented and read her reaction and go from there with the other things we need to address. Sometimes this monster will consume me and my thoughts. I do my best to not dwell on this. Regardless, it's not leaving my mind and needs addressed somehow at the right time. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and thank you for any words of wisdom.